So, welcome to another. I, I was looking at my background, and that's actually a glass of wine. And I was just about to say, well, welcome to another glass of no. Welcome to another exploration into consciousness, and having a glass of wine wouldn't be a bad thing, actually, considering how those energies are completely waxed at the moment. And that just makes me think maybe that's why I've chosen this background. I've not really, you know, consciously chosen it for any particular reason. So today we want to take the opportunity just to, have a general chat about the energies because, change, transformation, releasing, new beginnings. It's just everywhere you look. And it obviously shows itself for every single one of us in different ways, but also, from moment to moment in a different sort of um, ex expression, really. So you could have an emotional release 1 minute, and then you are blissfully joyful and have the most amazing epiphanies coming up. So it's all about epiphanies today. It's all about synchronicities. It's all about, sort of that sense of living between worlds, between timelines. I don't know if anyone watches Bashar, but Bashar used to say, I remember he used to say, we will get to a stage where we will have to make a choice. Which train are we boarding? There was a time before that, or still is to a certain extent, where you can jump on and off, one leg, maybe one foot on this train, one foot on the other. But I think it's now getting to a energetic situation where we probably have to start making more conscious choices, which trains we want to be on. I'm just going to open the floor here. What kind of um experiences, what kind of feelings, what kind of perceptions have been open to you after all this eclipse business and full moon and new moon and Neptune in Aries and new beginnings and fire there and that and that.
Well, I just wanted to share that. So Mercury just went out of retrograde on Monday,
Mhm.
and we're still, in that weird like shadow period around it. But normally Mercury retrograde doesn't like I don't even know that it's happening, right? I don't like feel any, weirdness. I mean, occasionally you'll have like electronic anomalies, but I'll tell you, on Monday I was had a client coming in who lives around like the former Candlestick Park, which is a little point in San Francisco. And the energy in San Francisco, it's always moving and grooving because of the way the energy comes into the bay. It will swirl into a vortex and then swirl back out in a different, you know, directional vortex. So the energy is always, interesting and moving. It's never still. But one of the things I was noticing as I was emailing with this client who was coming in was I thought there's something weird like going on around that area. So I was running some errands on Monday and drove over there. I swear I parked for a little bit. When I turned my car back on, the electrical systems just went really like wonky. Like I got an airbag warning, I got a parking brake warning. Every like 100 feet, my car would like beep, beep, and some other warning came on. I'm like, oh shit, I better go. I better just go home and turn my car off and park. So I did that, and yesterday my car was fine, like no problem, no problem at all. So I noticed that, Barrett had mentioned he was having internet problems. My husband was having problems like with bank ATMs. Like couldn't make them work properly. So I don't know if anyone else had experienced any weird electromagnetic anomalies, which is what I was feeling around that area I was driving in, something weird going on electromagnetically. you know, I don't know what it is, but I just thought it was really, really funny. And to me, you know, that kind of stuff you just have to really laugh about because there's no other solution. You know, if you get frustrated, it takes you out on your own, like joie de vivre, your own groundedness. So sometimes you just have to go, okay, I'm just going to roll with it. And to that end, when I drew a crystal card for our talk today, Amber was the one that came up. And
Hmm.
Amber, you know, just has to do with laughter, like that, you know, that mirth and joy. And sometimes it's just a F it, you know, you just have to throw everything up in the air and kind of see where it lands. So that's sort of where I am today.
I like that. F it and throw it up in the air.
Mhm.
What are
Mhm.
we not willing to lose? What are we not willing to throw up in the air? That if we're not willing to throw it up in the air, it will bite us in the ass or somewhere else. Anyone else has you know, experiences slightly out of the norm?
I don't know if mine are out of the norm, but I have made some constatations lately. I left Bretagne yesterday. I drove 600 kilometers and it was really, really an interesting journey on that road because I realized after 100 kilometers that there was a place that I had been told by guidance that I could live there, and I had forgotten about it, and I felt really in my heart when I passed through that area. And then I wanted to meet up with a friend of mine that moved away 4 years ago from where I lived, and she just happened to do groceries in 5 kilometers off the highway from where I was. So I went to see her in the most cute little village. And that's when I sat there in a park. It was the most sublime weather. And all of a sudden, I felt as if I had been 400 years back in time in Bretagne. It was so surreal. Finally, I felt like my heart was open. I could jump. I felt grace. I felt gratitude. I felt everything I hadn't felt in 4 months. And from all that time that I was in Bretagne, I thought it was me, like not being happy, not being able, not being this, not being that, because it was surreal. And then when I arrived here finally at 11 o'clock last night, I just felt in peace again. And I hadn't felt any feminine, heartfelt peace since I moved to Bretagne. It was just, are you kidding me? And even on the road, because I'm so old-fashioned, I only had my GPS for like on offline Google Maps. And then my charger wasn't correctly plugged in and it was dark and I had 80 kilometers left. And all of a sudden my battery went to zero, like rank. And I have no internet outside my house. I was like, holy moly, how am I gonna find the rest of my journey? So I said, okay, God, listen, I need your help right now. Couldn't somebody go for a walk with his dog or whatever? Nobody. Nobody. Then I turned the car around and I saw there was a house with light, but it said it was a bread and breakfast, but it said closed. But there were two cats in the window staring at me, and then there was a man inside. So I decided to knock on the window. So he came out and he was Scottish. He said, yeah. So I got my map back. But that was just like a little detail I wanted to tell you, that the help is there. Really, when at the moment I feel like they're miracles and it's instant. It's when I have faith, it's just like instant service. Like, so yeah.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Yes, that trust, right? That
But the thing about the energies, that's really puzzling me. I haven't figured that one out yet. How could I be so weird in Bretagne. How could I feel so disconnected and not functioning? And as soon as I drove 100 kilometers away, I was fine again. Like,
Amazing. Yeah, well, it's our surroundings that does impact on us,
yeah, but I thought it was just me. I put it all on myself.
Well, I mean, look at how many war, how much warring there's been over the last 1,000 years there,
Yeah.
right in that space, right? When France are trying to take over England, England's trying to take back France. I mean, there's just been this like back and forth. How many, battles were in, the Brittany and Normandy area during World War II, during World War I, during the Crusade, not the Crusades per se, but since 1066, right, where William of Hastings took over England. So there's a long history of violence and war on that land. I'm not surprised that that you didn't feel well there.
Yeah.
I mean, who would, unless you're specifically working on transmuting that energy, right? Or called to transmute it. You're a highly sensitive person. Of course, it's going to ripple through.
Yeah, but it's the first time I have encountered such weird energies. So, anyways, all is good. I'm in peace again.
Yeah, good. Well, thanks for sharing. Anyone else who wants to share a weird story? I've had yeah. Anyone, Mary?
I was going to, sorry, I thought somebody else had spoken. I haven't really a weird story, Martina, but I suppose if I think about it, my life is probably weird enough anyway as it is. I would have experienced, I think when there's a lot of energy change, that I experience a lot of that in my body. I didn't have it with the vehicles or anything like that, but I did feel a lot of kind of surges of energy, and kind of I get quite dizzy, or I get a spinning feeling. And when I was getting that, I just had to stand still for a few minutes. And it felt like something was being grounded, or I was grounding something, and then I would move on. But I did get a lot of that, and if I went to move over to do something, I'd nearly keep going over and fall over. Now that didn't happen, but that's how I have experienced the energies, and I have found them. First, I found coming up to this, I found every second day there was a kind of a shift, and then coming up to it, I just feel an energy surge right now, and it's like I want to keep traveling. And I don't know if it's restlessness. It doesn't, I could say, oh yeah, I have a restless energy, but I'm not sure that's what it is. But I do want to keep traveling, and I want to be going somewhere. And I want, even to sit down this evening, I had to sort of make myself do this. I just wanted to be going someplace. And I don't know why I'm driven to be going someplace, but it doesn't even matter. I don't need to know. I just need to enjoy it. That's kind of where I'm at. There's also, I suppose, there's a lot of stuff coming up. Like when I read your intro, Martina, today in Earth Nouveau, and you were talking about things revisiting. I think that I'm experiencing that too, but it's like a confirmation of not engaging. I'm feeling that I'm not engaging at all, but yet I am engaged on a very deep level, but it doesn't involve me having to say anything. And the less that I say, the less I need to say. So that's actually something that I used to beat myself up for. And I used to think the only way really to solve something was by discussing it and sorting it. That meant you sorted it if you discussed it, and But actually, I used to do that, and I used to think, oh, you're just too compliant, and you need to be more confrontational, and you need to do all of this. And actually, what I'm realizing is that was quite a gift. and that now I can really embrace that gift and I can see the wisdom in it. And I'm more in observer mode now than engaging, but yet I am engaged. I have to keep saying that because it doesn't feel like I'm not engaged. I'm very much engaged and I'm very much present as well. So it's quite an interesting energy. It has been quite an interesting year. Out of the 3 months, I've spent 2 of them coughing. So I'm obviously clearing something. But it's fine, you know, it's okay.
Well, it's the gift of being, right?
Yeah.
Gift of being. And since you mentioned this, I've had an experience on Sunday that reminded me of that as well. I was driving back from one of the markets on Sunday, and there was the car in front of me. A dog came running out. I mean, I've never seen a dog running so fast, and without thinking, it just smashed itself into the car, basically. Just ran into the car. There was absolutely no way the driver could have seen it or anything like that. What he could have probably done is stop, which he didn't. He just carried on driving, and of course, the little dog was whimpering on the street. So I was the car afterwards. So I drove to the side, and I thought, okay, shit, what I'm gonna do now, right? I didn't even have to think what to do, because on the other side there was a car stopped, and the guy came running over, and he said, "Oh, hold on, I'm going to the vet." And I said, "What do you mean? You're on the way to the vet?" He said, "Yes." And I'm like, wow, interesting. All right. So you mentioning the observer. I felt like the observer. I wasn't like, oh my God, you poor dog. I was just like, hey, what are we going to do with this? I didn't have to do anything. This guy comes, I'm going to the vet. I'm like, okay, this is interesting, right? So what he does is he wants to grab the dog. The dog's obviously in shock and bites him. Huge man, yeah? Everything stopped because he didn't even pull over anything. He stopped right in the middle of, he was one of those guys, yeah? So starts bleeding, and he's like, ah! Really more blood than the dog, in fact, yeah? And I'm like, okay, maybe we need a blanket or something. So yeah, I got a blanket in the car. So he runs back, takes the blanket, throws the blanket over the car, over the dog, wants to pick the dog up. The dog bites him again. So he stands there, both bleeding hands like this, screaming. Yeah. And I'm like, okay, so what's gonna, I'm literally just standing there watching this, and I'm like, this is so surreal. Is that a word? It's just like, how did that happen? This dog runs in, which is very weird. This one drives off. This guy comes. Now he stands there bleeding. Now, of course, his wife starts screaming from the car, asking him to come back into the car. And he couldn't have even driven, but luckily she was driving. So he goes, right? He drives off, obviously in shock himself now. I'm thinking, I hope this dog doesn't have rabies, because otherwise this guy is in not good shape. Anyway, so I'm thinking the dog's still lying there, and I'm thinking, okay, well, I think we need a basket. And I'm thinking, how do I don't have, I'm thinking, what have I got in the car, right? Next thing, I'll tell you guys, it's unreal. A car comes, pulls over, sees the dog. He says, "Oh, don't worry," he says, "I'm a wildlife rescuer." Everything happened literally within 7 minutes or something. I said, "What?" He said, yeah. Opens the door, takes out the cage, has got this stick with a sling around it. And I'm like, I don't know what to say, right? There's a runner next to me. He stopped, and I said, "You know the dog or something?" No, he didn't know where the dog came from. Another car had stopped in the meantime. So the dog comes off, runs as much as he was injured on the hip, but he could get himself up, and he lied underneath, found some rescue underneath my car, and he started calming down. So this guy comes, you know, people working with animals, their energy is just like this. Lies down, says, come on, Schnooks, takes this thing, gets the sling, whatever that's called, around, takes him out, puts him in the cage, which really the dog collapses after, you know, obviously knows, okay, I'm okay now, or shock or whatever. And then they were trying to find out, the dog had a plug, you know, and they had a phone number on it, and that couple behind me then started phoning, and they couldn't get a hold of anyone. And also the address, there was another plug with an address, and the address was absolutely nowhere near the incident happened. And I was just standing there observing everything and thinking my thoughts. Okay, we need a cage. All right, here it is. And then, you know, there was nothing for me to do. They did what they had to do. I knew everything was fine. I got in the car and I drove off. And when I was driving back home, I'm thinking, what was my job being there? And I didn't go. I didn't get bitten. I didn't even have to touch the dog. And I thought, is it possible that I helped divinely orchestrate all of that?
Yeah.
There was such a peacefulness about this, even though there was this gentleman who obviously was shocked by having his bleeding hands, and the dog was shocked, and yet there was such peace around that. And I thought, well, that's creating through being, right? Just being there at the right time. And the thing was, it was almost like in a movie. Like the dog was contracted to run out into the car. I had to be behind the car. This guy had to go to the vet. That's how it felt. Everything was at the right time.
Amazing.
Fascinating. It was fascinating.
Wow.
In a romantic comedy, that would be the meet cute. You know, meet with the animal rescue person, and you know, have a date or something.
Yeah, it was cute.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually.
Yeah.
But no,
Yeah.
I was just happy that he took care of the dog, you know, because they were discussing. I said, does it really matter at the end of the day? Just get him to the vet first and then phone whoever you need to phone, right? But anyway, he was in good shape then. What shape? I'm sure he was fine. But it was a very interesting experience for me that hasn't left me. And the sense, when I look at the energy of it, it felt that all I needed to do was be there. And I did my job. And I said to Emma, I could beat myself up that I didn't go and try to pick up the dog, or I didn't pick up the phone to phone someone, you know, but I didn't have to. It was all taken care of. I was just there to observe and to mediate it into being.
Well,
So-
and holding space for all that was occurring, all the
Oh.
chaos, right? Like
Absolutely.
holding the container so the chaos didn't get out of control.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, when you're in the situation, you don't have thoughts like that, because, you know, you just go into the observer mode. But afterwards in the car, I thought, yeah, that's what it's like. And it was almost like, you know, I didn't need a thank you. I didn't need to be recognized as anything. It was that internal knowingness, because it was a confirmation of who I truly be, not just me, who we all truly be. And Mary, you just said that.
Yeah.
And
I'm just listening to you and thinking, how often does that happen in our lives, Martina? You
Yes.
know, that, and this is another thing that has been coming up as well for me, is about getting out of my own way. And while you're talking, I'm thinking about that, you know, about situations in our lives sometimes where we are just the coordinator and the observer, and we can get in our own way by getting involved. You know, kind of, it's, if we stay back and let the energy flow, that's how it was meant to be. But there are times where I would have been impulsed to do something and whatever. You know, it's an interesting thing, and I suppose that's the energy we're in now. Where I do think we're observing a lot of. Well, I'm feeling that for myself. I can only speak for myself. But your story really captures it, Martina. Like every bit of that, you know.
Absolutely. And I would have been the same in my earlier days. Oh, come on, get in there, boy, you know,
Yeah.
girl. And that's exactly what this guy showed me, the first guy. Because he was that. He was that what
Yes.
I used to be, or what I have seen my
Yes.
mom to be, you know. And we live in a floodplain in Austria. And, you know, next to the Au, which is a kind of forest, you know. And when the floods come, which was quite regularly, we just woke up and everything was, you know, meter water in the house and of course outside. And there would be Bambis, you know, and deer and animals. And I remember so vividly when a deer screams out of fear, it's an awful sound. And there's my mum. The deer goes under the water and she's like, you're diving in, right? Now, what does the deer do? It's out of panic. It doesn't bite, but it kicked the shit out of her, you know? So she came up, the next couple of days and weeks, she was bruised all over, you know, because that's who we were, you know, the warriors, we can do it, the defenders, you know, and all of that. That's very much in my lineage. I had many, many lifetimes of that. And this is exactly that energy that this guy showed me, that, okay, until he had to leave because he was everywhere. It's not funny, but yeah. So this,
Such a good story.
yeah,
Mhm.
Yeah.
but this is also, and this is something, do you know, all the things, or some of the things that we have healed in our own world, yeah, we have healed for ourselves or helped others heal. We are seeing that now coming up as mirrors. And the mirror principle has been amazing because I always work with a mirror principle, you know, small, big, cosmically. But it was more like, okay, so what do I see? What do I still need to heal within myself, right? But now it's like, oh, what have I healed within myself that now can resonate with others without me even having to tell the story or facilitate it, because I have become that healing energy that I'm now resonating out. And this is why I find that, you know, when we think that we are ascending, doesn't mean that we are no longer experiencing chaotic situations. Absolutely not. Because we become, you know, we talk about that beacon of light. That beacon of light has all these different frequencies that we just become that mirror. We just need to stand, that beingness. It's almost like a mirror. Stand there. And you've got the mirror to the front, to the back, left, right, up, down. And people gonna just get their old wounding that they haven't healed still reflected onto them. But the healing can take place if they are open for it, because you have now healed it. So it's quite exciting.
So Martina, may I share what I'm getting, the perspective that I'm picking up from the way I'm seeing it, what took place for you was that it wasn't any form of chaos or anything like that. It was you, the Martina of the now, in my way of seeing it, is that you were actually bearing witness to the synchronicity that is going on every moment. And it's not necessarily a chaos in the universe, but that the divine is always in charge. And the divine is always operating in a synchronistic way. So it wasn't about the people or anything like that you were bringing healing to, or the dog or anything like that. It was for you, the Martina of the now, to bear witness to what the divine actually does in the universe. Is creating synchronicity. Every moment is a synchronistic moment. So from your growth, your spiritual growth that you have done over the past several years is leading you to this point now, where you have evolved to another layer of experiencing the great mystery in a more beautiful way. And you're shifting away your experiences from chaos and confusion to a peace and harmony in the universe, which is always there, but we in our chaotic mind, we don't see it. But in that moment, the Great Spirit is showing you, yes, Martina, look what I'm doing. It's not chaos. It's just me bringing everything together in one synchronistic moment to show you this is how I operate in the universe. And you're just bearing witness to what I do. You don't really do anything. You're just there to see it happen and to experience the joys of the real universe, the realm of the real. And that's the way I'm seeing it. And so I don't know if that makes sense to you, but
Yeah,
that's my perspective of how I'm seeing it.
yeah, that's beautifully said, and it's like acknowledging that mystery. You're absolutely right. Acknowledging the synchronicities, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, absolutely, yeah. Thanks, Lana. Yeah,
It's just the experience to prove to you that, hey, look, Martina, look how far you've come with all the hard work you've put in. Now
yeah,
you're at another layer of the frequencies of energies that is more less chaotic and more in the realm of what is true, what is real.
yeah,
You're shifting, you're going,
yeah.
becoming better and better at recognizing the great mystery.
Yeah. And it was me, the observer, the witness,
Yeah.
just witnessing how everything synchronistically came together. And this is why it had that sense of a movie, That's why it felt like, oh, this is the first actor, the dog. I'm like, okay, interesting. Then the next actor stepped forward. And even the runner had a role as well, because he was also more the observer. He stopped and witnessed, just like I did. Yeah. So yes.
Now, if it was somebody that didn't get to that layer of advanced mental intuition that you've gone to, they would have experienced the dog perhaps dying right there on the spot. That would have been their experience.
That's an interesting perspective. Yeah, having talked
and
about
then
yes,
that driver that came and picked up the dog, to the couple, they probably would have just drove off and left the dog there too.
Yeah, that's
right?
a very good point, Lana, you're making.
Yeah.
It's that the infinite possibilities of every outcome now, and how we as the individual, by not having to do anything but to be something, impact on the outcome. Absolutely. Yeah. That's a very good point, Lana. Thanks for that.
It's like, what do I want to see in the universe? Do I want to see chaos, or do I want to see something that is more real to the realm of the real? Right? To what the great mystery actually is, because that's what we're really kind of trying to advance ourselves and our wisdom or knowledge towards, right? What is the actual real? So that's the layers that we go through.
Yeah, absolutely.
So tap yourself on the back and be proud of yourself for seeing that, bearing witness to that beautiful moment where you can say to yourself, hey, I've traveled a long journey. This is where I'm at now, and it's getting better and better every day.
Yeah. Thanks, Lana. It's really in the acknowledgement of everything. Absolutely.
And me hearing the story of you telling that story, I'm proud of you. I'm proud of me for even hearing that story and you telling, because it's telling me that the universe is not a bad place. No, let's not look at the universe as a bad place. It's a really beautiful, healthy, harmonious place, but it depends on the perspective and from where we're looking at it and what level are we looking at it from. And there's so much hope for us to experience the harmony of the universe.
Absolutely.
So it's making me a little bit emotional even to say that, because I feel so proud of you at this moment that you've gotten to that point.
Thank you.
And we're all of us here in the room is experiencing that with you.
Yeah. And I suppose this is when they, what we've learned about creating, different bubbles of realities.
Yeah.
And how everything and everyone plays their part. So not for 1 second, I judged the car that just drove off. It didn't even cross my mind. I just watched him drive off and I thought, oh, okay, so it's my turn then. All right. So there was no judgment in anything. And there was not even like me feeling sorry for the guy who had there was no emotion in any of it. And that was quite interesting as well, It was just that plain sailing observation and the wonder. I did acknowledge the wonder of it all, how it all came together.
That's the word, wonder. That is where you're supposed to be experiencing it from. It's from the wonder of it, not the judgment. You're just experiencing the wonder of the universe, the beautiful mind that operates the entire universe, bringing all these synchronistic moments together so you can have this beautiful experience. You come out of it and you're feeling like, yes, there is hope in the universe for everyone. It's beautiful.
And the thing is, I would say with lots of us have do this all the time, have done it all the time. And because of the change in energies now, the instant, lots of people talk about instant manifestation now. Stuff instantly manifests, just like Annemette was saying, she stopped the car because she ran out of battery. There was this B&B and there were 2 cats looking out saying, hey babes, come in here, you can recharge your battery there, and there's also there's also this one thing we don't want to influence the way it's coming together, don't have any expectations attached to it, right? Just
exactly, yes.
Yeah.
But I love that, you were like witnessing this whole thing and just, being there, holding the space for it. But I think it's a really also wonderful illustration of chaos begetting chaos, right? Because the man who came from across the street he came in hot, right? Oh, there's something to get it done, and the dog reacted to that in the same fashion, right? So the energy that he brought, right, and I mean, for all of us who have animals, we know that when an animal is injured, you have to go in very gently and very softly because they're already stressed, right? So I just think it's a beautiful example of how his energy had a direct correlation to the dog's energy, right? When they came together.
Yeah. Okay, Annemette. All right.
And also, Martina, just to add to that, I know some time back we talked about chaos and the order in chaos. I think that you could really see that at play in the way that all played out, the order that it all took. And another thing that I was thinking as well was how the observer affects the observed, because really you were just the observer. And yet there was something, you had an effect on all of those people that came along.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. And yeah, and do you know, the last couple of days I've come across certain situations or people talking to me about still needing to be needed, still wanting to be acknowledged, and still being in that realm of, oh, I have to have a PhD and I have to have a certain academic, intellectual background in order to speak with authority. And of course, I stand for the opposite. I wouldn't say the opposite, not in judgment of anything, but it's possible, especially now as we're going into this new energy, using a title as a crutch is not gonna get you anywhere, because we are starting to recognize more and more that history's been a lie, carbon dating has been fabricated. nothing is real the way we have perceived it. And the only thing that is left for us to really discern what's true and what's not true for us is our own intuitive process and the alignment between, the mind, the heart, and the gut.
Well, and that is, each of ourselves individually creating our bubble of reality, right? And then owning that, being aware of it, holding space for ourselves in the way that we're manifesting our lives, our flow, right? And sometimes I love the phrase, that you've used before, that there's nothing new. There's nothing new in the world. It's just the way things come together that get mixed up differently. So in this situation you had, you crashed together. You were like a center point for all of these different vectors crashing together and mixing themselves up in a certain way. And then all of those people went on their way and you went on your way. And I wonder, the effect that situation had on each of those individuals, because that energy, that pebble in the pond energy that you were holding now, like rippled out into different neighborhoods, right? Like you said, that dog's address was way the hell over there somewhere. Like, how did he get here? He was scared and he just ran.
Yeah.
Right. And he brought together all of you in that certain time space continuum, that timeline, that time stream on the road, on the random road, and the energy came together, and then everybody went their merry way.
And it was literally, it felt like the time had stopped, because, the people were parked. This guy opposite was parked in the middle of the road. Nobody was honking. Usually they would start honking from the back because they can't see the dog on the other side. It was absolutely stillness. Nobody had anything to say. My side was more open anyway. But it was almost like, freeze, just let the players in that need to come in. Okay, let's move on. That's really cool. Barrett, you wanted
I was
to
going to say, yeah, absolutely. It's a pat on your shoulder, absolutely, because you said something significantly powerful as well, because you said there there was once upon a time a version of yourself that would have reacted completely differently.
yeah.
And how you took stock and ownership, you actually, I'd like to say, looking at, from what I'm picking up, it was quite controlled. You were pretty conscious of the fact that you're responsible, accountable, and you didn't try to interfere. It's a very high frequency because it's quite abstract. because there's so many different layers there, and everyone's going to take a little bit something, because everyone's siphoning what is reality from that is based on their abilities, because everything is frequency. So everything that's happening, everything is taking layers of what they feel is important. But I think that you were completely 100% present, because you harmonize, neutralize. Because sometimes there's a saying, every action needs a reaction. But I don't think you do need always to react. I think you can just, if you're fully aligned, fully present, uh, what you've just shared with us is a classic scenario of how you can orchestrate something of the highest. So that can now be exemplified into different scenarios. So yeah, thank you for sharing that. Yeah, beautiful. And by the way, I just wanted to say your hair looks amazing. Actually, you look the background. Have you done something?
Amber. Yeah, amber background. I'm right in the glass of red wine. Thank you very much.
It's amazing. Yeah, you look, everyone else does as well. I like the lavender. No, lavender. No, it's not lavender. It's
That's Tanya.
Wisteria.
Wisteria.
Here you are.
That's actually growing in my backyard.
Beautiful. Smells so good. And it has all the bees coming, right? My mom's got
Lots of bees, honeybees, bumblebees. The bumblebees especially love the wisteria.
Here's one to consider. Is it possible that you can change the past? Because if you change the past, you can change the present in so many ways. Because when you go back to the past, and if there's things which was relatively unhealed, and if you're present moment in time, you're ecstatic, you're in joy, you're in bliss, you're in that peacefulness, that you understand everything what's rotating 360. So you'd go back in time and say thank you. Thank you for all those pains, hardships, and things like that. And then you open your eyes, things look a little bit less chaotic, shall we say. Yeah, but for me, I get, I'm not woven into the fact that I'm not really into comfort zone so much, because I think the greatest currency exchange when you feel the pain of another sentient being. So if you're there feeling the pain, it's sort of like alleviates a lot of that pressure and tension for others. And people feel not indebted, but very, very much grateful for your everlasting presence. So, um, and these are key moments in life, which is cutting edge. It's beautiful, um, synchronicities, and I think more and more will occur now. And as groups, as we come together and we formulate this incredible alliance, so the consciousness collectively coming into fruition, I think this will eradicate all the ills that humanity has plagued itself from separation with Mother Earth. So we're going to be more grounded, more connected, more energized. So I'm really thrilled. There's no other word. I'm excited about what's happening on the planet, and because we're doing it. We're doing it. We don't expect anyone to come and do it for us. We're responsible. We know that our older versions were a little bit less accountable, shall we say, and now we're more accountable. And we're not trying to hide. We're not trying to push it under the carpet or say, I can't deal with this right now. No, we can deal with it. Thank you very much. We're mature. We've grown up, and we're responsible. So yeah.
It's like what you're saying, Vera. It is an individualization journey. It is an individual journey. And we have to remind ourselves again that, the bubble of reality that we are building with other people of same signature frequencies is created through the work, the self-mastery that we do. And the self-mastery work is not necessarily the hardship and the challenge and all of that. It's getting to a stage now where You know, once we've done a certain amount of that self-mastery, it's a lot of it lies in the acknowledgement of the wonder, of, like Lana so beautifully described, the mystery and the synchronicities. And the more we start focusing on that, the more of that we're going to bring into our lives, exactly like you're saying, Barrett, you know. And
No, I was going to say thank you for that. Absolutely, 100%. It's also being holistic as well, because you're whole, and no two beings are the same. They carry a unique frequency. So we can't put everyone in one box. We shouldn't do that at all. So, and the expression is, if you're not that way inclined, less likely you will have that kind of expectations, because on reflection, what's happening within is what is fundamentally expressing itself. So the greater you become with self and understanding and compassion and sensitivity, it becomes the rhythm of life. You don't need to go out there, your stance, your mannerisms, your breathing, everything will alter the shape of life which is around us. And that's the magic of what we're creating at the moment. By the way, I was thinking, like, does anyone know anything about the Mona Lisa? Because I've been kind of like, the fact that, there is a price tag on the Mona Lisa, because somebody or someone sort of labeled it as being priceless. How can one person or a group of society, whether it's the Arts Council, whatever, make out that this one particular painting is unaffordable from the perspective of it? You can't buy it. You cannot purchase it. I mean, I would look at someone else's painting and think, wow, for me, that's priceless. That's an amazing work of art. Do you feel that this is going to alter very soon as well? How the perception of what is and what isn't?
well,
Who
absolutely.
yeah.
You know what? If no one would buy into it, it would be utterly worthless. And I
Yeah.
see this a lot, of course, because I'm calling myself an artist now, and I'm starting to look at selling the art. And now I had a very interesting conversation with a framer, because I'm getting some of my pieces framed, getting ready for a pop-up shop, which I haven't told you yet. Anyway, surprise. Anyway, so I had a framer over, thank you. And he frames for galleries. Yeah. And we were just having a chat, and I said, so how do you feel about the art, being with artists and galleries and so on? And he says, look, it's very simple. He says, if you take any of your pictures here, if you go to the village hall, and you can sell it probably 150, 200 pounds, right? If you take it to the next level, you have a pop-up shop with it, and you have a bit of marketing around, and you put a nice frame about, you can probably sell it for 5,000. And he said, if you have a name, just because people know you and buy into whatever said that you are good at, if they like it or not. Look at the Damien Hirst. The Damien Hirst has been an amazing sculptor and artist, but the shit that he produces of late is atrocious, frankly. Yeah, on many levels. Oh, I shouldn't have said that loud now, but anyway. Any artist, compared to what he did. And he said, then you can sell it for 50,000. And I'm like, do you know what? You're so right.
You are.
It's completely taken out
Yeah.
any judgment, is it nice, is it not nice, do I have to believe into it or not? It really depends where you're gonna go. Are you gonna put a frame on it, or how do you paint the colors of your pop-up shop? What kind of presentation you want to create.
Well, and
Absolutely.
there's a perception of value too, right? When you create that perception in a way. Like I was having a conversation with someone who's doing a presentation on creativity this week, and you know, she was working with like someone junior to her in her company, and didn't, you know, they were creating this sort of like PowerPoint presentation to talk about creativity within their company. And her perception of what this sort of younger generation person had designed, you know, the look of it, the way it felt, the color story, you know, she's like, I didn't like that at all. You know, I just thought it was, you know, very juvenile, whatever. Her perception of the art that this younger generation kid, you know, maybe like, you know, someone around your daughter's age, Martina. And then, you know, she's like an older generation, and then her higher ups are, you know, older than her. And so this sort of perception of like, what is art? What is style? What is creativity? What is classy and what's not classy? You know, I was thinking about like Van Gogh, for instance. He was a prolific artist and painted, you know, did amazing work, but nobody valued his work until after he died, and his brother and brother's wife started like selling all of the art, right? And then it became more popular and more popular. I think about like Andy Warhol too, right? That pop artist from the 50s and 60s created a culture around pop art that became very popular among like a younger generation. But the older generation, you know, they were buttoned up and saying, why, that's not, you know, that's not art, right? And here's a soup can that says, is it soup or is it art? We don't know, right? It's the perception, I think, of the generation, right, who has that energetic electricity and
Yeah.
is seeding it right into the world. And I don't know, I think as I get older and wiser, supposedly wiser, you know, but have that ability to step back and look at the bigger picture, there is that connection to the electricity, right? Where I'm not judging that or, you know, as bad or good, just saying you know, it just is. Yeah, I think Da Vinci, who painted the Mona Lisa, that picture was a commission for him that he'd never turned over to the person who commissioned it. He loved that painting so much that he held on to it his whole life. It was like the one thing that he traveled with. He took with him wherever he went, you know, his little chest of tricks, you know, and his diaries and whatever. And so I think because he loved it is maybe why that legend of value rose up around it. Because he loved it so much, he wouldn't let it go.
Yeah.
Can I
I mean,
just add something to that? It's just about the Mona Lisa and about the idea of the perception, and that gives it value. I think that, you know, with any painting, it's the perception of what it's worth is in terms of what's the measure that we're measuring it by, and is currency. You know, what is it worth in terms of monetary currency? But I think that there's another currency in the paintings that we're not aware of. And I think that that is not valued at all because we're unaware of it. But I do remember years ago reading the Da Vinci Code, and, you know, I did a little bit of research on the Mona Lisa. I haven't forgotten, I'm ashamed to say, but anyway, I do remember this bit that you were saying, Tanya, that the Mona Lisa was very important to Da Vinci and he didn't want to part with it and all of that. And that's true. But if this is true, you see, I don't know what's true or what isn't true. But what it said was that the Mona Lisa was actually, there was codes embedded in the painting and they weren't visible to the naked eye, but they are there. And even if you look at it, you are affected by the codes, but of course, more so if you are aware of what they are. And I do think that, and I think, even with your paintings, Martina, that I'm seeing, I do see an awful lot of hidden coding, hidden energy, hidden messages in your paintings. And like, you just couldn't put a value on that really in terms of currency. It's just the energy of it.
Yeah.
I was going to say, if I may quickly, if I was to market your amazing art, Martina, the way I would do it, I would keep the original somewhere safe.
Yeah.
Would make it affordable for the average person to have a piece of your heartfelt art in every house, so they can buy prints. And that's the way I would go forward. I would have an amazing, because my background is marketing, I would do an exhibition, organize an exhibition, because you have a beautiful presence, your persona, your messages, the way you're laying it in the exhibitions, and you can create amazing forms of information for people to palette, and it will be everlasting, and make it affordable for the average person, that they can have a print and it's nicely framed. But the original one, you can keep it somewhere safe, probably in a vault, because it'll be very, very expensive. And you can, do what the powers that were they do. They can create promissory notes out of it, because, they don't even have real gold backed in any of their vaults. Whereas the real intrinsic value, ladies and gentlemen, are we hearing it? It's energy. You're energizing people,
Yes,
Yeah.
you're hired.
Yeah.
and that's very powerful.
Yeah, I get that. I agree with that, Martina. And actually, with the originals, I do feel quite protective about them. I feel kind of protective about you selling them. What I would like to see happening is that they would be on display somewhere really safe, but
Beautiful.
where people can look at them and they can get the coding that's hidden in those paintings. Because I think if you stand in front of it and you observe it, you will receive it if you're anyway aware at all. So that's what I think I would love to see happening with them. And yes, as Barrett said, to do prints or whatever and sell them off. But that's just, I think, special. I think
Well,
you know,
very
yeah,
much receive your kind words here. To just follow up what I said early on, I am planning a pop-up gallery for 3 months. I'm planning it at the moment, and I have put some of my paintings on. They will be for sale. Because it has been an opportunity that just came up and I couldn't refuse.
Beautiful.
And I cannot not follow that, because I think it's been over 10 years that I've been going on about, I used to live like that. Things just was presented and I just had to say yes or no. And I haven't had that for so long, and that has been presented, and it's really, challenge is not the word, but it's really making me put my foot forward again, because I haven't run a shop ever, to be honest, selling my own artwork, and things like that. So it's going to be a very interesting experience over the next 3 months, May, June, and July. And let's see what happens, from that. And it's the one thing I have to say, personally, I'm quite happy to sell them because I can make more, right? This is not, and I do need space because I've got lots. Now, just to give it, we're talking about the currency that Mary was talking about, and this is interesting, and because the framer who came, he's been a framer for 30 years. He teaches framing, but he's an artist too. But he's an artist. He can draw the most detailed. He showed me a few things like, wow. But he walked into the studio and he walked straight up to Grand Rising. And I don't know if you can remember Grand Rising, the blue one that I made, and where the beings
yeah.
appeared.
I remember it, Martina. Loved it. Yeah.
Yeah, the one which is going onto the tube stations, you know, Prince going onto the tube stations in October. And he just walked straight up onto this one. And he said, "That's amazing." And I'm like, okay, well, there must be something else to it, because this was the one I did in no time. And I was going to paint over the next day. It was really only the first layer. And when I got back the next day, those beings had appeared that I didn't see before. So like you say, Mary, there is a currency. But what is the currency? There's a currency of just completely letting go, of ease, of just allowing my left side, the female side, to do the painting. And that is actually why I started painting like that, because I wanted to practice my, being in my mind a lot. I just had to let go of the mind. And that was the particular painting where I had absolutely that's why I always say, I didn't really make it. I didn't do this. Just like, whoa. And there it was. So it's that currency of ease, of trust, of joy, of bliss, of play,
And it's the currency, Martina, of the flow of energy and information and wisdom and knowledge and all of that that's coming through. I think that that is really huge in your paintings. And I think that you engaging the female side for you to do that as well is really significant. So I think that that's, for me anyway, I suppose for everybody it's different, but for me, that's the currency that I see coming through in all your paintings.
Thank you.
Mm.
You see, this is the thing, art. Why art is coming through now so much, because it's got nothing to do with painting or drawing or, it's our creative side. And the way I forgot again that word. Help me out, Tanya. You know the word when you give every letter.
Anagram?
Thank you.
Where you're giving an anagram is when you take the letters and rearrange them to make other words.
Like art,
So,
art. A stands for awareness for me. The R stands for resilience, because that, as long as we are human beings, there has to be a level of resilience to it. And then the T is the truth.
Or transformation.
Yeah.
Truth and transformation. Yeah.
That is really what's coming through in every single thing we're doing. We don't have to call it art, but that is art. Art is life, that blank canvas and everything. And this is where, art, like Barrett, you were saying, is still an area that has a fluidity to it, because there are no rules. How do you price your painting? You can make it up as you want to, right? And which other areas in our lives are so open and fluid still, right? Where we can just add whatever value we feel fit. Yeah. But even that, Barrett, as you said, it is bastardized. Of course it's bastardized, because, there is too much money making out there, and the majority of those pieces and that goes back, all these great masters, right? The majority of these pieces, they don't hang on walls in normal houses, because they are literally in the vaults.
Yes.
Then
Or
Sorry, I've got to go. Sorry.
Okay, darling.
Mary.
Thanks for being here.
Yeah, I mean, for insurance purposes as well. I mean, they put a very good replica. Because one of a few businesses that my uncle did in Cyprus, he had an amazing printer, and with the exact brush strokes and everything, it would be hard to tell the original. I mean, I've got Picasso, I've got loads of paintings in my mum's house, and people walk in, they say, and I'm saying this is original, and they're like, no, you can't. I'm like, yeah, isn't that amazing? They're like, they're looking up really close up. they're sort of zooming in. This looks amazing. So you can replicate very good versions of it, but keep the original somewhere safe. And it all boils down to ownership as well. I mean, for me, I think people's expectations about ownership is going to go out the window. I think it's going to be more how we're going to be in that guardianship situation and protectors of peace and harmony. And you speak of a very beautiful universal language of love in how you voice it in your abstract in certain informations that are flowing. It's raising people's game, and it's bringing them to a place where they can be at ease with themselves, at peace with themselves. So it is priceless what you're producing, and that's for you. It's not for me to dictate. That's for you to feel, yes, I am. What I'm producing is priceless. So I can't put a nominal value onto this, but I can do prints and I can make it relatively affordable for the people. And then exhibitions. I mean, it's amazing. You could donate some of your prints to I don't know, amazing places where people can exhibit and they can see and cherish and feel the upliftment with it. So there is no right or wrong. It's you're the one who has to feel that I need to be in my element with that. It's just we're just feeding off each other with some possible outcomes. But yeah, I'm thrilled, I'm excited, and I'd be happy to use some of your literature to turn it into poetry because that's something that has emerged. And I'd be very transparent with you guys. This has happened purely from this show, from this group, because I connected with another member who's not quite present here today. So it's rippled, and I'm so excited to be part of this incredible tribe. And so I'm really, really excited. That's why I was looking forward to coming on a Wednesday it because you guys are really, I mean, let's be hand on heart. You guys are really elevate people. And I was saying to Katrina as well, I'm thrilled to be in such beautiful company because it's raising my frequency as well, and be around the feminine power. And you guys are so amazing feminine powers. It's like, seriously, you ladies are amazing, for me to be in your beautiful company. I'm thrilled, I'm excited, and watch that space. I think something amazing is occurring.
A lot of
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you for saying that. I will receive that compliment.
Me too. We all will. Thank you.
Mm.
We'll pass it on to the other crew that isn't here today. But of course, it takes one to see one. So we have to
Indeed.
Thank you.
turn
Indeed
it
it does.
right back at ya.
I hear what you're saying about this sort of like idea of ownership. And I think we're seeing it already in this younger generation who's not valuing things, they're valuing experiences, right? It's like, I think during COVID, there was a whole sort of like generation under like 30 or 35 who ended up getting vans and living out of their vans and traveling around, in the US and, having that experience, right? As opposed to, focusing on buying a house and, having a family and getting all of these things, that are our comforts that we're surrounded with. I've lived in the same house for 23 years this year, and there's a lot of things around me, just by being in one space for that amount of time, we gather things
Yeah.
over time. But I think, talking to some of the people some of my friends, and like my hairdresser, for example, is younger than me. She was born the year I graduated from high school, and she she says, my generation can't afford to buy a house, so we have to look at other ways to, sort of be grounded and make our impact in our lives. And those things aren't necessarily things, they're experiences.
Well, this is where we're going, isn't it? This is where it's going. You know, the more embodied the soul becomes, the less the material
Yeah.
possessions are, that drive us. You know, it doesn't mean that we don't need anything anymore. But then again, you know, obviously in the long run, as our bodies become more etherical, things will change altogether. But obviously, that's going to be a couple of lifetimes from now on. But it's a good one to. And I think was it Barrett? You said earlier on, the body, can we heal the past? Yeah, of course we can. Right? I mean, the body, and I had this conversation with a new friend of mine the other day. The body doesn't know the difference between the past, the present, and the future. The body can only be in the present moment. The body. But now the question is, where's the soul? The body doesn't have to be, you know, connected to the soul all the time. But the body can only be in the present moment. So as soon as you go and remember a memory from the past that was obviously still laden with energy, you in the past, you're right there. You just traveled there. And that's exactly the conversation I had with this guy. And he said, yeah, but you're not taking your body with you. I said, well, you do, because everything happens in the past, the present, and the future is happening right now. So yeah, you are taking your body with you. Your body's right here. So how can we then, and then we led into time traveling, you know?
Thank you. That excites me. Now, if you guys talk about what is your main objective in life, or what kind of aspirations, what kind of future, what do you, I mean, my fantasy is just beyond words. I mean, I'm very much interested in bilocation, telepathy, what do you call it? Teleportation, interstellar travel. And it's very, very possible, because I feel that it is holographic. That my understanding is things beginning to feel more and more holographic, and there is a projection. You know, these eyes are projecting, and the thing is, like, when you become more conscious aware, the fact that you can make these subtle changes within your vessel, you will see certain changes around, and it's a gradual stepping into that alignment, and you're going to affect every aspect of life. And it's happening. I feel that people are becoming more aligned with this way of consciousness, which is the ultimate technology. And I love using AI, because you know, people do enjoy attacking this aspect of this technology. I interviewed someone yesterday, and he says, no, AI is not good. It makes the mind slow down, and this, that. And, you know, I agree and disagree, because um, there is a lot of mundane aspects of life, and as long as the intention is of the highest and purity, there is a double-edged sword attached to every aspect of who we are. And lately, and this has been increased by being amongst beautiful souls like yourself, you raise your frequency even more. So what's happened is that I'm even more impeccable with my words, in terms of, like, I'm not here to disturb the peace, you know. And I think that that is so powerful, that you're not here to hurt anyone in the process, because everyone has a certain expectation, a version that makes them happy. So we're not here to superimpose that and make them feel, no, you're right, you're wrong. We're not competing. This feeling of competition needs to go out the window. I don't think we need to compete anymore in any shape or form. So this is the kind of paradigm shift and the new Earth scenario, if you will, that I'm excited about, you know, and bring these beings into this play. But it's not for me to say, you know, but I feel that I'm kind of energizing this, where we can all be our own unique expressions, without someone coming and saying, I'm here to define what is right, what is wrong. But although there is universal truth, and for me, there is a natural law playing out, always has been, always will. And for me, it's honoring and respecting that space without causing harm or loss. And I feel that that's what will help the wonder of life express itself in its full capacity, you know. And I see that in your art, Martina, and so my pronunciation of your first name is Marti. No, you're my,
Martina,
yes, and the lovely lady next to me. How do
yeah.
I?
Donna.
Donna. There we are. Forgive me.
Donna. Mm.
Yeah, and I feel you as well. I think you're amazing. You're so pure, and I'm just so thrilled to be in your company. You know, it's this is a biofeedback, and it's everybody likes it to a point. It's not like, you know, it's not a validation necessarily, but it's like it's nice to know it's well received in the sense that, you know, it's a little something that makes you feel, oh wow, that's, you know, my energies are really doing things amazing for humanity, for the growth of our human species, of where we are going to end up, you know, what kind of civilization are we aiming towards, you know. So
Look, I mean, that kind of feedback that you're providing is priceless, because I think the majority of the population, I certainly speak for myself, you know, receiving kindness, receiving a compliment, receiving to be told certain things. I had to practice that. I had to learn that, because I've come from the other side, the forced receiving, the being told what I had to do, the being told what I was, what I, you know, was not, and all of that. So that has been for many years, I had to really, really practice. So thank you. I can just, and I also think, you know, this is part, there's no selfishness, there's none of that. All of this we have already outcreated. We have already reframed, you know, we're just acknowledging each other with gratitude. And how much does that create compared to competing against each other, or having to say you're right or you're wrong, or, you know, and all of that. And I don't know if you can perceive that too. I mean, I'm sure you can. It's like whenever you go out there into the world, outside of this bubble that we have created, and we do this all the time because we haven't come here to just stay in one little bubble, you know. We have really to come out there because we are supposed to be peacemakers and healers, and, you know, we have to expand our boundaries. They have to be flexible enough to, you know, be able to go out there. When you now meet people who have such a conclusive perspective about things, this righteousness and that wrongness, it physically starts impacting on you. Do you feel that? And it's really draining. I mean, we can talk for hours, right? And always I click off the thing and I'm absolutely fine. I'm inspired. I'm like, okay, what else is there to do? And sometimes you have like a 3-minute conversation with somebody and you get the daggers everywhere, you know, and even the wall. No, I don't want to hear what she says. I don't want to hear this. That not being received, talking about receiving, can be physically painful. Not being received by somebody else. Not from a place of, I need to be recognized. It's just somebody saying to you, shut the fuck up, you don't know what you're talking about, I don't want to hear it. And it's like, oh, in a way, you know. And then it's a choice, because yes, for some people we do speak stuff that nobody wants to hear. That's okay. But then the question is, for what purpose are we choosing to still entertain conversations with people who don't actually want to hear what we have to say?
And I think that goes back to the question you asked at the beginning of this conversation today. Which train are you taking? Right? Are you taking the train that is the train of, duality, of competition, of needing that doctorate to be validated by your peers, right? To look at what is and hold that in your box of present reality? Or are we taking the train to this higher frequency timeline of expansion and unity and collaboration, and creating that bubble of reality in the future that is the true primordial garden of Eden, of Gaia, of Earth, of Terra, of Gaia, Paramatena, all of those spheres within spheres of the spirit of Earth Mother, that we're meant to be as ascending humans, expanding our DNA into the spaces of time and memory and beauty, of art, of that energy expansion. And we don't have to be doing the splits anymore, trying to pull everyone over from that duality train, into this one. There's no convincing people who don't want to be convinced. And why do you need to worry about that anyway? Right? So I don't know. I think speaking with individuals who can't or won't receive or hear you, right? Of course, we're going to have that in our day-to-day lives. And those conversations are quite superficial, right? And quite short.
Yeah.
So, and these conversations are, that we're having here, have a depth and a breadth and a groundedness and a lightness that allows us to explore that energetic expansion in a way that, opens us to more energetic expansion.
Absolutely.
I have been doing healing work for a long time. You guys all know this, and seeing all of the people that I was trying to, get across from that old timeline, to this new frequency timeline. And I just saw myself, right? My legs going further and further and further and further apart, right? And I mean, how wide can you do the splits? And for me, it was just going wider and wider. And at some point, I had to say, okay, no, okay, I have to be done with that timeline now. And whoever I was able to help, move across to this higher frequency timeline, great. But now I'm anchoring it here and now, right? And that is the future for me. And if, other people want to engage with me, whether it's the healing work or anything else, right? I have an intention that those are the people who are anchoring in this, ascending timeline.
Have you, Tanya, are you an author by any, because I found out recently, Anna, I'm sorry, not Anna, Martina is an author, and I'm in the process of ordering Martina's book, but have you released any articles yourself, Tanya?
I do a blog sometimes,
Okay,
occasionally. I'm working on some stuff, but
great.
nothing has manifested quite yet. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, no, because there is, I mean, you're an amazing person. I mean, it's like
Thank you.
I mean, don't need me to tell you
Yeah.
that. I'm sure you know that anyway, because people in your company, I'm sure they're blossoming, right? I mean,
Mm.
background. So I suppose you don't need to do too much. You're in this space where you feel the abundance and not the scarcity. I wouldn't thought there was hardly any lack in your world, right? You come across self-assured, quite fulfilled person. That's the persona, that's the presence that I feel in your solidness of who you are. Um, it's remarkable.
Always trying to grow deeper into that. You know, as we, I don't know, move forward in all of this sort of like,
Did this
chaos that's happening around us, right? It's like I try to be my own like beacon of like that, like Martina was the observer in this story that we've talked about, right? Try to be that the eye of the eye of the hurricane amongst all of the chaos for myself, for my family, but also just for Earth, holding that space.
were you like this? I mean, what were you when you were like in your teens and when you were quite an infant, like let's say when you were 10 years or 8 years old? What kind of
I've always been really energetically sensitive, so I could always like communicate with animals. I always, knew when a plant needed water, when someone was sick, whether they were angry, like what to say and when to like back away. So I've always had that, sort of like chill, energetic.
Have
Yeah.
you heard of equinicity.com? Equinicity.com.
No.
Lady in British Columbia, and she's got like a herd of wild horses, and a lot of people go there to spend time with the horses because they're just so very healing. And she's written these amazing books and how to, because the horses communicate. She channeled this information, she put it into her books and stuff like that. And I was listening to her only last week and I thought, ah, this amazing lady, where have you been all my life? In as far as like, because I started podcasting about 2 years, so and the way it's going at the moment, someone knows her and said, I will have a word if we could bring her to your studio and then we can have a session where we can. I felt very emotional. I mean, I broke down when I felt at the purity of her voice as well. I'm like, wow, this lady is amazing, absolutely amazing. I felt so uplifted. It's unbelievable. And this sort of stuff should be more and more readily available for people, I mean, it's like uh, I don't know why it's not more out there. So yeah.
I think we're getting there. I'm in California, so I I see all of these different sort of healing modalities that have thrived in this metropolitan area. And there's almost like a ripple effect. I
Yeah.
mean, San Francisco, I don't know if you guys can see, but now that I have a rainbow here on my hair.
Yes,
I
yes.
have this rainbow little
Oh,
crystal
wow.
ball hanging in my window, and the sun is shining through, and there's rainbows just all over in my room here. I think and I got one. I caught
Yes.
me a rainbow. But Barrett, I just love that these healing modalities, they're almost having like a seeding
Yeah.
here, in this area. And people are really hard on San Francisco. They say, oh, don't go there, don't travel there, whatever. And of course it has its issues, but what I love about this city is the energy is always, always moving. Bye, Marissa. Have a good day. Thanks for tuning in. Um, the energy is always moving and there's always something new that's being created and almost like transmuted from the difficulty. We've seen so many changes where like tech people come in and then that tech industry will blow up and all the tech people will leave, and then all of a sudden more artists and healers come in, and then more tech people will come in and create, I don't know, sort of you know, energy around that. And then that industry blows up, like when Twitter, you know, moved out of the neighborhood, right? A lot of people lost their jobs, a lot of people moved out of the city. But I don't know. I think I go back to kind of like the 60s. My husband and I have been watching something on the Summer of Love, 1967, and all this really great stuff that was happening in London, like Carnaby Street, and also in San Francisco on Hippie Hill, and everybody just like mobbed in, playing music and creating these love-ins, and there's still that energy here, which I just, you know, I love. And so I think seeing these different modalities, right? Whether it be sound healing, the Global Sound Healing Institute is here, and seeing, you know, Chinit Sang, this amazing type of abdominal massage based on the Tao coming out of the Bay Area, and you know, Hawaii Takata brought Reiki to California, you know, back in the the 80s. So there's always been this sort of like insurgence of energy that ripples out, right, from this space, and things that I take for granted, being here in the city, right? The freedom that I have as to just do what I do, right? It's just so interesting, and I feel like you know, this is like a creative sort of hub where that pebble ripples out from. London too, I think, is that same way.
For me, definitely, I feel just what you've said. I feel like that too. But I also think what's going to happen over the next, let's just say, 5-10 years, you know, there will be so many more healing modalities sprouting up, if that's a word, and being created. You know, as soon as we allow ourselves to go beyond the five senses and really start tapping into the, you know, entirety of the palette of colors that we have available to us. And I think when you know, Barrett was saying, you know, he's got this gift of writing poems that all of a sudden, you know, got inspired within himself. He's always had it. All of a sudden it has an outlet. Now, this is Neptune in Aries. This is what's all about. Look out for the gifts to switch on. Or let's call it the technology to switch on, that, you know, brings forward those gifts that, you know, many of us have used in other lifetimes. I mean, I've been an artist in many other lifetimes. So this is why the transition for me is such ease, because I can totally appreciate that I'm working with all my artist charts, you know, and this is why I can so happily say I don't have to go and learn. For me, learning a particular technique now would probably destroy that inner sense of my painting, until I might be able to change it at some stage. You know what I mean? You just got to go with whatever. But, you know, I think we're almost coming to an end. But before we do, it's like, what other gifts are coming forward? How can we ask with this sense of wonder? I'm wondering when I wake up tomorrow morning, how will I look different? How will I speak differently? How will I write differently? Do I want to eat something differently? Because the things are happening so fast now, right? So what's going to be different tomorrow that I can acknowledge? And that's where that word acknowledge has become so significant for me, because we are fast and we just do things subconsciously, unconsciously, without putting our awareness to it. And in reality, there is so much changing. That transformation is happening so fast, and we don't have to slow down. I'm not saying slow down. Just become more aware of the subtle changes. And then the more intention and focus you put, awareness you put on those changes, the more you can perceive yourself change. And that then gets reflected in your environment, because you're going to start meeting other people. Because literally we've lost quite a few, right? You know, who or what are you not willing to lose, that if you lose them will actually allow you to step into the true you.
Mm. Well, and that's a continual process of mindful awareness, isn't it?
Absolutely.
You know, it's like, I can't tell you how many times I've talked to someone who, you know, is just being ruled by their negative thoughts and feelings. And it's like, okay, just stop for a minute. Stop for a minute and say, no, I see you, negative thoughts and feelings, not today. You know, I'm going to love and accept myself completely today, no matter what that means. I don't have to listen to that programming that wasn't even mine in the first place, right? If you can be mindful about that, you can be mindful about anything, right? Whether it's just stopping a minute to say thank you to that cup of coffee or cup of tea or meal that you're eating, right? And stopping for a minute and just like breathing into your awareness with it, right? It works. It's a cool, you know, a cool experience to be mindful, right? You're going to get more out of everything you're doing if, you know, you can stop and be mindful for just, you know, it just doesn't take long. It takes 3 to 5 seconds to just stop for a minute and just be present, right? And be mindful about what you're doing. You know,
So
and
I
of
want to
course,
I
there's
want to
times
share.
not to do that. So go ahead, Lana.
So I like the question that you're asking me, Martina. So the way I'm looking at things now is that my focus is not so much, I think that I shouldn't be focusing so much on the bigger picture anymore. My focus should be on the tiny little things, the things, the subtle changes that are taking place, and acknowledge those changes, those subtle changes around me, and how I play a part in the subtle changes. And for me, if more of us do that, that will transform the world. And the bigger things that seem so explosive that we have no control over, that's going on at the moment, our subtle changes and our recognition of these subtle things will transform the world. And what seems so big and explosive will collapse in its own energy. It has no power. We are the ones with the power. We are the ones that's going to make that change and make it in that subtle, tiny way, one day at a time. I mean, I don't know what's going to happen this afternoon. I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. But when this afternoon comes or tomorrow comes, I'm going to try to recognize those subtle changes. And in those moments, I will change myself. I will focus on what is good, what is beautiful, what is harmonious for me, and what is harmonious for my household, what I can bring to anyone I speak to, the love that I would bring with me and project out of me to those that I'm interacting with, is those tiny little subtle changes. And for me, that's the most beautiful thing at the moment that we can do to transform this world to be a better place.
Beautifully said. Thank you, Lana.
Thanks.
Beautifully said. And, you know, it is a consciousness evolution, a consciousness revolution. We don't need sticks, we don't need guns. We just need to say yes or no.
And
Have
like
some
Mary
fun.
had said earlier too, you don't have to say anything.
Oh, that.
It's a consciousness. It's all in your consciousness. You change your consciousness, you can make changes around. Make it for the better, always for the better. And we don't have to buy into all the disharmonies and the huge things that are going on and around the world, especially here right now. So one person at a time, one moment at a time, one subtle change in your thoughts makes a huge difference.
Where,
It's
where
a collective.
no, I'm asking Lana, where are you based?
I'm in Iowa.
Iowa, okay.
Mhm.
Excellent.
So yeah, we have a lot of we have a great American community, which is fun, which is it's great fun to have. And of course, you know, where does Marissa? Marissa lives
She's in San Jose,
in San Jose.
which
Okay.
is the South Bay area.
No, I love that. I love that. So, you know, when people say, "Oh, you don't have friends," I said, "What are you talking about?" Of course, I have lots of friends. They just live in America or in other countries, you know. That's the beauty. That's the beauty of having Zoom or any other form of digital connection, right? So,
The world's a much smaller place.
it's
With
peculiar.
technology the way it is, yeah.
I'm so
We
great.
were kind of recognizing the world as being one. In that sense, the world is one. It's only one world. And by having this connection, all of us in different places around the world, otherwise we'd never know each other, right? So it's just a beautiful thing. Just to recognize, that's a subtle little tiny thing that we are recognizing, right? That's making a difference because now we are becoming friends by interacting with one another on a weekly basis. And like you said, Martina, we are in our 5th year. We've completed 5 years already. It doesn't seem that long, but it
Nope.
is.
Nope. And we continuously, perpetually out-created ourselves, you know? Absolutely.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever had one boring conversation. So,
Yeah.
but there's one thing, you know, I read Philip Lindsay's blog today. He writes so beautifully. I love reading his stuff and so much information. And obviously, you know, he's going back into, you know, the Blavatsky and all of those, you know, sort of references. But he was actually saying the one sentence that stood out to me as well was that if you think back in the Lemurian times, you know, the third root race, when we were all connected because we were like a group consciousness, one big soul consciousness. Everybody knew everything, and it was just like that, no boundaries, no nothing. And it was in the Lemurian times when the spark of mind started. And some say this is where humanity really started, when the first spark of mind got implanted. Lemurian times, third root race. So this individualization process has been going on since then. And of course, history denies all of that, or doesn't even look at anything, you know, further back than probably 12,000 years now, whatever, you know. But now the cycle is closing because that spark of mind that we had as Lemurians has become huge level of consciousness, of awareness now. That's now a fire of the mind. Now, the next level for that is taking that fired up mind that has been created and now connect with the heart and the gut eventually. But the gut, you know, through letting go of the emotions, you know, it's moving up into the heart anyway. So the heart and the mind together. And that just reminded me, you know, as a healer, when you work with people with physical healing, what you do, you sometimes just put your hand on their body first and you breathe. Because as you breathe and as you focus on your own heartbeat, you start adjusting and connecting with the client on the on the bed, on the thing, because your own rhythm of the heart already calms the client down. If you are aligned, right? And your breath, just the breath itself is the healer. If you have a signature frequency that is aligned with everything, this is the first start. And then from there, you know, it's like that's where the circle closes, because you still maintain the level of awareness, the level of consciousness, the spark in the mind. You don't have to let that go. We don't have to go back into, we're gonna, instead of having a soul consciousness, a combined one, we have group soul consciousness. And this is what I actually wrote about in the book. We're coming together as different pieces of puzzles. But we're not eradicating any of the puzzles anymore. We're just defining the edges of the puzzle by truth. And then we're going to put them all together. And this is just exciting, because this is such a huge thing. We've been doing this for so long. So this is not the first time we've been here doing this. But this time around, we have an opportunity to do it with awareness, with conscious awareness. And we even have an opportunity, once we have enough of this vehicle, this body, well, we shed it. But we're going to go through this death transformation process with awareness, with choice, because the life review we're already doing now while still being embodied. So we won't have to be pushed into a corner and then forced through a life review and forced through a reincarnation, because we're going out with choice. And in order to go out with choice, we have to start living with choice.
Mm.
And that's what we're going to do. So, final closing words. Some of us might be tired or wired and tired, everything at the same time. Allow everything to unfold. Enjoy the tired phase, enjoy the wired phase, enjoy the new gifts to come forward, enjoy when you feel like a sourpuss and a moody little bitch or bastard and you don't want to do anything, crawl back into the bed. You can do that too. Everything goes. The choice is yours. On that note, I want to thank everyone who's been here, who's dropped off by now. Everyone's going to watch it and, of course, like the replay and maybe even share it. And if not, that's okay too. So love you all. And I see you next week. Yeah.
Sounds great. Thank
All
you.
right, then.
Crystal blessings. Make
Bye.
good choices.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Yes, yes, too. Bye.